Now? Okay. All right. So I'd like to call to order this regular Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, June 5th, 2023. I'm Councillor Cherry O'Keefe in the chair tonight. To my left, joining me are Councillors Novak, Mayor McNeil-Smith, Councillor Rintoul, and to my right, Councillor Duck, Councillor Duncan, and Councillor Garnett. And in the chambers, we have members of staff, and we may have some people joining us via Zoom tonight. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that our meeting in our town is on the traditional lands of the Saanich people. And as someone who moved here 25 years ago this month, I'm grateful for the opportunity to live in this place, and I'm grateful to the Saanich people and their ancestors who have been good stewards of this land so that we can share it with them today. We'll move to approval of the agenda. I'll look to the committee for a motion to approve the agenda. Okay.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion carried. Next, we would normally have public participation for things that are on the agenda, but there's only 2 items on the agenda, and they both have their own public participation, so we'll skip that. And we'll move ahead to the approval of the minutes for the Committee of the Whole meeting from May 15th, 2023.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
And all in favor? And motion carried. We'll move ahead to presentations. The first presentation is regarding the development permit application number DP 100839 at 2270 Harbour Road. And in chambers, we have Sylvia Bonnet and Scott Davies to make a presentation. And you may go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. A little bit further away. Mayor and Council, so we have the pleasure to introduce this project that you have seen before, like a year ago, with a different sort of proposal. That was a subdivision for residential units and commercial space. I didn't work on that project, so I'm not going to talk about it. So the one that we're doing now, it's a combination of warehouse, 3 different uses, residential and commercial. So this is the front of the building, and I always have problems with this thing, so... Oh? What? It worked. Okay, so the location of the site, as you're well aware, in the Harbour Road, there's a marine industrial, light industrial area in Sydney, and very much surrounded by some residentials, I mean, further away, but most of the this area is the light marine industrial. So the site, located here, Harbour Road, I mean, so where the old Blue Peter was located, is now, so it's where the proposal is going to take place. So it's a small marina, and so that wooden deck that is existing there, that will remain as such, and the whole development is going to take place where the parking lot is now. So we have here the distinction of the 2 zones, the W1 and W2. So the light blue being the area on ground, and the W2 darker one, that is actually the marina. And as you know, the W1 can have residential units with a maximum of 2, while the W2 is not allowed to for any residential. So everything that's happening on W2 is the parking and services like an electrical room, mechanical room, and things to service the marina itself. So the project is consistent with the OCP, and is a mixed-use building supporting what is happening in the area. the 2 residential units, add an interesting component to the area, and the 4 commercial spaces that are going to be used again as potentially support for the area. So the project itself, so when we go to the site plan, so we have a main access coming from Harbour Road that feeds the commercial units located facing Harbour Road. So there is a pedestrian access coming right there in the center, and the reason for that is, with that in mind, we were able to actually pull the buildings away from the road and not have to have an access point from Griffith Road, where the change of elevation is quite significant. So doing this allowed us to have one central access, not interfere with Griffith, and have a better resolution in terms of design and use. So the 4 commercial spaces, again, are facing the Harbour Road. So this parking area is feeding specifically the commercial. So we have in overall, in the whole building, the whole project, we have enough parking stalls to support each one of the uses. But having the larger part of the parking in the marina ground, that is where most of the activity will be happening. So the residential units have their own garages. So this entry allows us to get into the commercial, allows us also to get into this courtyard that feeds the residential units, and we have 2 access points or entry and exit for the parking on the lower ground. So we have the garbage area and electrical here at the bottom, a loading dock to support the marine and the commercial activities. More in detail, so what's happening with, so we have a view there of the, it's kind of difficult because we have a view of the council chambers, right? We have the building, and you can see the separation of the two buildings, but actually this, between the commercial, so the top floor is connected. So something you can sort of see there, that is a connection of the two. All the buildings, so either the commercial and the residential have rooftop access, and with some garden areas and some planters, so to provide some interest and also additional planting. The ground floor that takes that looks after the warehouse. So the blue indicates the access to the residential units above, and has the 2 private parking stalls, their own access with a small elevator, like a residential type of elevator, stairs, and a storage area. That's kind of mimicking, both are very, very similar. And the entrance to the warehouse, it's in the center of this this building. So right there we have the entrance if you need to go in with a vehicle, and pedestrian access, offices, electrical room, and all services, being self-contained in this area. All the storage area is kind of on the smaller size because it's considered to be used mostly by the people having boats, in the marina, whether it's this marina or in the area. So that's the intent of those storage units. And we have in the parking here, so the location of the PMT, that is the hydro kiosk. We have some bicycles, racks for the temporary use, and we have permanent bicycle storage in the building itself. The upper floor, the main floor, so again, the blue is reflecting the residential, and we can see that that's 1 unit. And they're large units, they're really kind of top end. And this the other unit with the access through this courtyard. And the 4 commercial units, again, feeding from the commercial from the parking on Harbour Road. The upper floor recessed, steps back on both sides, south and north, and just to reduce the massing of the building. And we have, again, so that's the decks with planters around. The commercial, again, so has a second floor, not all the units, just the 2 central units. And just to give interest and provide more options in terms of rental or purchase, for the commercial. Rooftop, very interesting. The section illustrates, I think, more clearly what's happening. So we have like a lower floor that is what we were seeing before, that is all the warehouse, the residential units above, and the commercial with this open space in the center. The materials that we're using, this is a contemporary building, and we're using a mix of corrugated metal in a dark gray, so light gray stucco. So we have this screens, sunshades on the above windows, and we have a teal color detailed as a recessed walls, again, to provide interest. This is a more realistic view of the side facing of the north elevation, facing the ocean, and that gives you a pretty good idea of what's the intent and how the building is going to look. Same happens with elevations showing facing Harbour Road, very large window areas. To provide that transparency and also that connection to the street. Again, this is part of the interior, that courtyard. So one side has all the windows, while the other is commercial side for reasons code related, like fire separations. This is kind of a blank wall that is going to be treated more with just a planting growing on those walls. Side elevations, we have a combination of exposed architectural concrete that is reflecting the change of elevation from the grade, to the floor elevation. And so the commercial here, again, showing the difference between the stucco finish with the corrugated metal, and we have the single family homes, again, mimicking, repeating, and that same vocabulary. That's the 3D, the render showing that side, and you can see here quite accurately what happens with the change of elevation between the main road and bottom of Griffith. Again, the top view that shows so that courtyard going sort of in the center, and what's happening in those rooftops. And what's the connection between the building and the surrounding areas? We have taken into consideration what's happening with all the buildings in the area, and tried to keep the height within the 2 stories. Even though we could have gone to 9 meters, we wanted to keep it below that. Well, I don't know what I did, but I think that was the last one. That's the last view.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Committee, I'll open it up to questions now. Councillor Garnett.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Bonet, for your presentation. If you could go, can you please go to the site plan slide you had? I think it's like the 3rd or 4th one in.
Sorry. I may need help.
No, we'll keep going. Yep, that one. Oh, that one's fine too. You can stay there, that's fine. It's bigger anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a typo or it's just I can't imagine that was the intent, but when I first looked at it, I'm like, it's very unusual to have you enter on your left and your exit on the other side. Like, it would normally be the other way around. It seems backwards to me. Like, you would normally enter on the high side and leave on the, but it's reversed on here. It's saying enter on the low and exit on the high, which is counter to traffic,
Oh,
traffic
in
flow
the
normally.
parking,
Yeah.
it honestly is irrelevant. It could be both ways. And the reason why is because the width of that road there is a regular, is 7 meters.
Yeah.
So it can be two ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it might be a bit weird for people pulling in, because normally that's not
It's-
the way it's situated.
The reason
so-
why we have the two access points is so that you can have a fire truck coming in and turning and getting out.
Okay, so I guess my first question I was part of council when it first came forward and this is just for me, I'm just wondering why there was a change from the original, like, was there something specific that happened that made the plans have to be changed?
Do you want to
Yeah,
speak
I-
about it?
I can
Yeah.
speak. Hi, I'm Scott Davies. I'm
Yeah.
the developer. Yeah, we just when we got into the nitty gritty of the building permit and the plans and everything for that construction drawings for the other buildings, they were just very small buildings, but they're very expensive to build. So we started looking at building one building rather than 4 buildings.
Right.
So the economics didn't make sense for us.
Okay.
As well as we thought they might from the design drawings.
Perfect, that's fine.
Yeah.
And one more if I may, Chair. With regards to and I think it's smart the way you plan the residential, having the bedrooms not be side by side in the building, but I'm wondering in terms of where they are placed towards the outside, and granted there's, we have a covenant as far as noise being in the industrial area. I'm wondering if in the design of the building you've given any thought to the way you're building the outer walls where the bedrooms would be to help offset any noise attenuation or something like that.
Yeah, we're looking at triple glazed windows and probably a concrete partition wall between the two units as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Rintoul?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks very much for the presentation. It's a special property, so it's nice to see the mixed use proposal on there. I appreciate that. And maybe just the storage facility underneath, if you could speak to that, because I missed maybe the intent behind it. It's for your marina clients, for your
Just
tenants.
in our research in the neighborhood, like speaking with Van Isle, they've got a small storage facility in their property, and it's full. It's bursting at the seams. Speaking to them, they said they could use a place much more storage, and they've got, I think, over 600 slips there, and everybody seems to have stuff like crab traps, life jackets, paddle boards, all kinds of stuff that goes into boats that a lot of people take home with them and put it in their garage and stuff, and everybody's kind of saying that makes a lot of sense to kind of store it close to the marina, close to the boat, close to there's lots of marinas around there too where people could pull in their boats and get stuff out of their locker and things like that. So we had a feasibility study done on it as well, and it indicates that there really isn't much marine storage anywhere actually on the island, and it's sort of a new sort of thing, but there tends to be a need for it from our research.
Okay, so and again, just to clarify, if I may, through the chair, the intent is to market it to other than your tenants or your marina clients, so there could be other parties.
Yeah,
using
well,
the
we hope the 600 slips from next door fills it up, because we've only got, I think, 26 slips, or
Yeah.
less than that. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So I'll leave that there, and if I could, what was the rationale for the deck space being so large in the commercial unit? So I think I understood there's 4 commercial units there. I guess one on each side is up and down, and the deck space
Yeah.
belongs to that commercial unit.
It's either roof or deck, and it's just kind of nice for people to go out there and have lunch and stuff like that in the summertime. So it rather than staring at a torch on roof, it might be nice to have a deck that's usable space.
Okay, so you're maxed out in the floor space you can use. You couldn't build out further.
Oh, no, we can.
We
Yeah.
could have, yeah.
Yeah.
We could have, but it just, the building wouldn't have been as architecturally appealing, I don't think, and, yeah.
Fair enough. Thanks, Scott.
yeah.
Mayor McNeil-Smith?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Benet and Mr. Davies, for the presentation and bringing this forward. We certainly appreciate, or I certainly appreciate that there are no variances in this application. Appreciating that that residential has been retained in this development as well. I noted that there were a number of renderings, particularly the last slide, which I think give excellent perspective to. There was 3 or 4. That one, and then the last one. That one, and then the last one. So those are excellent renderings that bring perspective to this project. They weren't included in our council package. Of course, all of the site plans and elevation drawings were, which is helpful to us, appreciating it. But if it's available for those renderings to be included in the information, if this proceeds to the Advisory Planning Commission, I think would be interesting.
They were sent, but not on the date that the report went out, so we got it like 24 hours later.
No, we appreciate seeing them this evening.
Yeah, it's in the hands of the planning department.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
All right, I'll go ahead. I've got a few questions. So in regards to the allocation of space between the residential, the commercial, the marine use, I agree with your fact-finding study that there is a real need for additional space in marine industrial areas. And given that, I wondered why, did you consider allocating more space for that purpose rather than the fairly significant residential component? And just, what's the rationale?
Well, we do have, I think it's, that facility is gonna be, approximately 12,000 square feet, which is quite big. It's got 12-foot ceilings. We're able to we're gonna probably double, they call them sky lockers. You can probably double load that, it's like a locker on top of a locker. So we could potentially get 266 lockers down there at various different sizes. With a 6-foot ceiling in them, and some of them are decent size. They're like 100 square feet and stuff like that. And I guess people with big boats have more stuff, and smaller boats have less stuff. So there's quite a wide variety of units down there, and it really is sort of we are kind of testing the waters here. So I think 266 is a good number to come out of the gate with.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and if you could refresh my memory on, is the residential component in this development larger or the same or than the previous one that had come forward?
It's square footage wise, it's approximately the same. The other ones were 3-story units. These are, well, I guess it is still technically 3 stories, but a lot of it's underground now.
Right.
In the previous proposal, it wasn't underground. So this is probably it is more expensive. We're having to put a suspended slab and a concrete structure below there, but it's also, I think, a way better development, and that's why we went back to the drawing board. There was just something about that other one. It was okay, but we were thinking we can do better, and we think we did do better
Right.
with this one.
Now, in regards to the marina, I think you previously stated the intention is to keep the marina.
Yeah.
So
So the marina and the facility will stay as one strata lot. And then there'll be the 2 units which are strata lots, and then the 4 commercial spaces will be strata as well.
Okay, so who currently operates the marina?
We do, but we've just finished putting all new docks and stuff down there, and we're still waiting for hydro to power us up properly. So it's still a little bit jerry rigged at the moment, because we're just, and the site's a bit of a disaster. We tore the old building down and stuff. So once this is under construction, which we intend, if it gets approved, we would intend to start hopefully like as soon as possible. And then the marina will be operating, we'll get a proper website done up and along with the storage and
Right.
everything. It'll be very professionally run.
Yeah, good. Okay, yeah, no, that was just one thing I was concerned about is the marina continuing to operate and.
Yeah,
As
yeah,
you
and
know,
actually
there's
down in that facility too, there's an office for the marina and washrooms and like a little office area and stuff as well, in the middle of the building there. No, not in the middle in the front entry there.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Any other questions from committee? No? Okay. Yes, Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. Seeing no further questions, I'll move the recommendation that development permit application number DP 100839 to permit the development of a 3-story mixed-use building be forwarded to the Advisory Planning Commission for review and comment.
I'll second.
Just a point of order, I believe, normally we would have public participation at this point. Is that correct? Or staff comment just before we go to a motion.
I'll withdraw the motion. Chair,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Just if there's, I'll make I don't think there's anybody here for public participation for this item, but I'll ask in case there is. All right, I'll bring public participation to a close. And if there's anything that staff would like to add before we proceed to the recommendation? No. Okay, thank you. Councillor Rintoul?
Thank you. May I ask a question through the staff?
Of course.
Thank you. Just with respect to the storage component through the staff, and I heard, I think, 266 lockers potentially. Is that got parking implications that were considered as part of the application to date?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Rintoul, no, it doesn't. The number of storage lockers doesn't impact the parking requirement. It's based off a square meter calculation of the floor area devoted for that use. So no matter how many lockers they divide it up to, it's still the same amount of area. So the parking is fine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'll have one question to staff. I understand that the zoning bylaw allows for 2 units. The OCP allows for 1 dwelling unit. So which takes precedence? Do we need to look at both of those, or does the zoning bylaw take precedence even though the OCP is newer? How do we approach those sorts of things?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the OCP has policy direction for 1 dwelling unit per property, but the zoning bylaw, the W1 zone, currently allows 2 units per property. So this application meets all the requirements of the W1 zone. So no zoning amendment no OCP amendment is required. The OCP policy direction is something that staff are taking into account as we review the zoning bylaw, but that's not in place yet. So
Okay.
this meets the bylaw regulations.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? No, okay. Recommendation, Mayor?
I would move the staff recommendation as previously read.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? None opposed, that carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, we'll move on next to the next development, which is, we have Mr. Wayne Hopkins, I believe, joining us in regards to development permit application DP 100836 at 10473 Resthaven Drive. Good evening, sir.
Hello, Wayne Hopkins of HFT Ventures Limited, the applicant today. You've seen this property before in the past, but a slightly different configuration as townhouses. We're back today as an apartment condominium type configuration. The architect's supposed to be up here, but he's at home sick, so I'm going to muddle my way through this, and so please bear with me. This is actually kind of fascinating. A lot of the recommendations that came out of the townhouse application were very difficult to meet the requirements, and difficult to meet the spirit of the requirements. So we went back and started to do a redesign and ended up going back to what was actually our first thought on the property, which was this kind of proposal. Quite honestly, I'm substantially more happy with this layout and design for various reasons, but I'll take you through it as best I can. Okay, I might need a little bit of help here. How do I change the... On that one? Okay.
There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it's just that toggle.
There you go. Making me feel old. As you can see by the site plan, it's fits quite nicely on the site. All the setbacks are as per zoning. The entire project meets the required zoning for height, setbacks, massing, site coverage. We went to a singular access in the middle of the property as opposed to the one side, which gave a nice access into the very bottom. This layout allowed us to greatly increase the amount of green space and permeable materials around the site, and allow us to add both a natural stormwater management feature. Forget what they call them, but it's all the aquatic plants and natural treatment, as well as provide at the back, the entire back area is outdoor shared public amenity space, or not public, private amenity space, including sitting areas that are hardscaped and green spaces for, I'm not even gonna try to use this thing, whatever. You can see on the back there. The layouts are quite functional. As you can tell, we angled a lot of the side elevations of the building just to add some interest to the configuration, and also makes residents look outwards towards Resthaven as opposed to directly across at other residential dwellings. There are six one-bedroom units, 2 studios, and 1 3-bedroom unit per floor. Oh, I think I missed one there. All right, went by. Yeah, that's the second floor. It's exact replica of the first floor. The underground parking, it's more under building parking than underground parking, but it does appear as though it's underground parking. Has 1 stall per residence. It has 24 bicycle parking spaces, garbage, and then of course the 1 accessible unit. The exterior uses multiple different materials, a wood finished stained type cement hardy board type material. Looks very realistic and looks natural as in wood. Paneling that's painted and in 2 different colors, and then near the entrance it's a rock facade from floor to the top. We tried to keep the sides fairly bright and light, not too dark, and maintained a fairly large fascia around there just to sort of frame in the project. You can see by the elevations on the top, it fits in nicely with the residential dwellings on both sides. It's not much higher. It's basically the same. We added a additional outdoor amenity space for the tenants or residents on the roof as well as down below in the rear yard. It'll be a sunnier location, so anybody that loves to enjoy the sun can go up top. It was accessed through a rear set of outdoor stairs. This was taken off of a idea of a project. What's that one? The co-housing? Brother? The Raven project, the co-housing one where they have the outdoor stairs. You really like that look. So that gives access to a fairly modest rooftop deck of about 100 square meters. We also pulled it into the center, so it's not overlooking adjacent residential neighbors. That just shows you the the cross-section of how it relates to Resthaven, the Parkade, and the two floors above. As mentioned, landscaping formed a big part of the plan. As with the previous plan, we're retaining quite a bit of the vegetation on the rear part of the property. There really is no other vegetation on the property currently. In fact, it's one of the very few projects I've ever been involved with where the finished new project has less impervious materials than currently, because right now it's townhouses with a ton of concrete. So that'll be a major improvement. And just some different perspective views. You can see, you really see the angles of the side elevations, and we think that the entrance is very pronounced now, including an accessible ramp to get up there. Well, I think that's it. Let's make sure I made a few quick notes when I found out Joe was sick. One of the advantages that we found to this is we're able to double the number of homes that will be on the site from 9 to 18. And the various sized units from studio to 3-bedroom provide, once again, 3 different levels of housing within each one. Right now, we're planning on strata titling the units, but we're unsure if we're going to actually take them to market as sale or whether they're going to keep them as rental. That's going to be decided once we get our costs in and find out if we can get within the CMHC rental program. If that's the case, then of course it'll be a 10-year term under rental, but we won't know that till we get much further along with the building permit process. Any questions?
Council? Councillor Garnett?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Hopkins, for the presentation, and thank you for answering some of my questions in advance. And it was rent or sale, that was when I first, and the staff report had mentioned 14 one-bedroom, and you mentioned it's actually 12, 6 on each floor, so that's great. Thank you for that. With regards to the upper deck on the roof, and thank you for some of the changes you made and not bringing variances. Before I get to that question, just the fact that you moved the upper deck in and the privacy issues are gone, and then having the underground parking, so to speak, and not having that turning radius for unit 101 is important. And also a little thing, having the heat pumps on the roof and not having to worry about having to come for variances for heat pumps. That was a nice addition as well. With regard to the outdoor, and there's an exterior staircase to access it. So we have adaptable units in this building. So would there be no way for somebody who had mobility issues or accessibility issues to actually access the rooftop patio?
Unfortunately, no, because the bylaw requirements for where the elevator is placed negates our ability to. It's towards the front of the building and it's on the outside. It's not within the 25%. So there's no way to access it that way.
Okay, if I may, Chair. Then just as far as because the architect's not here, so hopefully you can answer it. In those same adaptable units, as far as accessing the patio, and the only reason I asked is because I've done a tour of another building where they had adaptable units, but there was like a lift of this far to get to the deck, and I thought, for me, that didn't make any sense. So when you're making your deck, will it be more easily accessible for somebody who might have accessibility issues and not have a step over of sorts?
It's a good question, because I just realized that last weekend at my mother-in-law's. She has real mobility issues, and we have to bring in care workers to get her out onto her patio for an hour because she can't make that step, and it's a pretty healthy step.
Yeah.
It's on my list to ask the architect. I have a feeling it's going to be controlled by code in relation to the outside, how much depth you have to have between the surface and the door in relation to water and egress. But it is on my list of questions to ask them.
Great, thank you. And I just have one more, if I may, Chair. So I spoke with staff with regards to the boulevard tree that's in front of it. Will have to be removed to create space for the driveway. But further to the east, there is also a boulevard tree that fronts on 10,471 Resthaven. And where it's placed, I'm wondering if the critical root zone is going to be a factor in terms of your construction, whether that tree will be able to be protected, do you think, or will it fall victim, so to speak, of the overall plan?
I can't speak to the one of the reasons we relocated to the center for the access was because under the last proposal, staff had mentioned that that tree was most likely coming out on the boulevard. I think it may be because of health or whatever the case may be. So yes, that one's coming out. I can't speak to the other one. If there's a second one that you're referencing.
Yeah, it's not actually in front of your property, but it's actually in front of the neighboring property. But I was looking at where it's located, and I believe it's probably close enough where the critical root zone would actually be in to the property at 10473. So
I would say it probably is not, because if you look at the property now, they built it with these really weird concrete block retaining walls all the way around. And when you drive down currently, you're almost at the parkade grade. So we're not going to be really going down very far. But it's something we can mention to our arborist when we're doing working drawings.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Other questions of committee? Yes, Mayor?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Hopkins, for the presentation and bringing this new application forward. Just one question, and that is, again, appreciating, as colleagues have mentioned, the relocation of the rooftop patio space. In the side elevation drawings in our package, and I think we're in your slides, they're at a bit of a distance. Are those rooftop railings, will they border the actual interior space, or are those on the edge of the building?
Are you talking about
the lower
these like
diagram,
right here?
Yeah.
Those are set way in.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, other questions? No? This would be public participation period. I'll officially make the call in case there's anybody there that wants to comment in public participation. All right, we'll draw that to a close. And if committee has any questions of staff before we proceed to a recommendation? Seeing none?
I'll move the
Oh,
recommendation.
sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just a couple things to point out with this one. Looking at the line of excavation on the plan that shows the parkade level of the building, it looks like the excavation is substantially set back from the front property line, which means that that tree on the boulevard or close to the southeast corner of 10471 Resthaven, just to the east of this property, should be okay. It looks like they wouldn't be excavating within the critical root zone of that tree on the neighboring property. So that should be okay. And just to speak to the elevator access to the rooftop, the zoning bylaw does allow elevator access to the rooftop. Section 5 of the zoning bylaw, Section 518 has general height regulations and exemptions, and there is an exemption for elevator shafts to extend up to the rooftop above the maximum permitted height of the building. However, they do have to be set back a certain distance or a certain percentage into the depth of the building. This proposed elevator shaft is proposed to be tight to the east side of the building, not set back. So that would be why it couldn't extend to the rooftop in that location without a variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from committee?
If not, I'll move the recommendation that the development permit application number DP 100836 to permit the construction of a multifamily residential building containing 18 units for the property at 10473 Resthaven Drive be forwarded to the Advisory Planning Commission for review and comment.
Second.
And any further discussion from committee? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Garnier.
Sorry, I was just waiting to see if the mover was going to speak.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to say thank you for again to the presenter. I think that's myself that this is an improvement for sure, and getting more homes and based on the price of what townhomes are right now, having studios and one bedrooms, it hopefully will provide an opportunity for people who couldn't get into the housing market an opportunity, given where we live and what prices are like. So I'm anxious to see what happens with it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Nope, that carries unanimously. All right, committee, that's the end of our agenda. I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you.